and that's the driving factor.
So here's what you do. Okay, now I've seen this go down too. Nobody ever thought of this one. So what you do is you cut it up into blocks. Now I don't know how many acres you've got. If you've got enough to actually lay out streets and cut it up into large blocks. Okay, and you build large houses on the streets, and then you have like little alleyways that cut in and have a little block on the inside, and you build the little houses in there.
Right.
See, and those are like servants' quarters, guest quarters, mother-in-law houses, that kind of thing. And
well, my plan is to cut it up in as many ways as they let me, with as little construction as they let me, and hopefully in kind of long, deep lots. And that makes me not have to build so much road. Right? If I minimize road frontage and I have these long, deep lots, they're deep but narrow, then I can have a bunch of them with just one road. And then I'm not building houses. The buyer's building the houses, so I don't know how big they're going to be. I don't know if they're going to be trailers or houses or tents or what.
Do they have to build?
It's not up to me.
Long, skinny houses.
Well, if they were really
long, skinny lots, they'll have to be single wides in there.
Maybe shotguns.
Houses, yeah.
Shotgun houses.
It won't be that skinny.
I read James Lee Burke. I know all about New Orleans.
Do you know? Yeah, they have a lot.
Have
of
you read
shotgun.
any Lafcadio Hearn?
No, is that good?
Very good. I've
It's
got
not
a
that
book
skinny.
along
With
it.
septic,
It's really
with wells and
great.
septics. I mean,
And
I'm
he
beyond
was
the
in,
services,
like,
so
the
it has wells and
1880s,
septic tanks.
1890s.
Even a skinny lot is
Right, so
at
the
least
back of the
50
lot can
wide.
be used for.
It at least has room for a double wide, yeah.
Well, guys, I got to go.
Are you gonna
but
take
I've
off?
enjoyed it, yes.
Did you
Thanks for bringing.
did you try any of this tea?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I had a cup of that. I had a cup of that. Did I
Did you
miss
find your
anything?
tea that you're missing tea?
No, I think I've thrown the bag out. What happens is I wind up in such a
Tizzy.
at the end of the thing trying to get this out of here so the next shows can get in, and then I have to teach a class, and trying to get this cleaned up before class, and I start throwing things every which way, and I must have thrown that away, or
That's
maybe
possible.
maybe it got packed. Well, anyway, thank you for coming, Ralph, and
See you shortly,
text
Ralph.
Ralph in your see
Long
he
lead.
wears a cowboy hat.
Oh, I turned in. Am I still on camera? No.
Yeah, you have
Not
to-
over there, you are.
Over here. I just turned in episode number 92 of Text Ralph. Watch it every Saturday, 8 p.m.
There you
for
go.
TV. Asheville, North Carolina, and the land of the sky.
That's right.
Yeah. See, the Yankee value I picked up wasn't zoning. The Yankee value was overpopulation and contraception.
And contraception. Thank you for coming, Ralph.
Yeah, enjoy it.
And come back.
See you, Ralph.
Compressor looks real good.
It makes things sound good, doesn't it?
Yeah, compressor and expand, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And see, if Asheville keeps annexing for suburbanites, they're never gonna really have a solid contraception fund. And that's what frustrates me about annexation, is because they'll never get the 51% progressives that they need in order to really have a strong contraception policy. If they keep inviting votes from the fringes.
What kind of contraception policy are you worried about?
I want one. I'm worried about no contraception policy. What I want is fund a contraception fund so that people who have trouble affording contraception can get it for free.
Did you know that up until the mid-60s, it was illegal for a doctor
To
to
prescribe pills.
instruct a woman on how to prevent pregnancy?
Yeah, I hear that it's not long before Roe versus Wade, there was a case involving Connecticut
Yeah.
that guaranteed contraception rights. It was
Yeah.
called the Comstock Laws, and I don't know who versus Connecticut, but it was somebody versus Connecticut. And it was about 68.
And that's not that long ago.
Yeah, it was only like 5 years before Roe. So, but the struggle
Look
now,
at
the
this. I'm gonna
advance
run-
now
I'm gonna-
is in funding.
I'm going to run it. This is another I'm going to run a 420 roll here at just after 6. It's the 420 roll.
You got the top of it. Okay. Ready? One.
Run it again. Huh?
1, 2, 3.
And of course, my grandpa.
it's true. Give you all my love, and what more can I do? By myself, you understand. I just want to be your man. Straight 1, 4, 5 now.
Now, who are you and what are you doing?
I'm the fish mongrel,
Mongrel.
and I do fish mongrel.
And them fishes?
And yep, them are some of them fishes.
That looks like shrimp.
Shrimp, fish, you know. It all looks like money to me. Because that's what it's really all about.
Is that what it is? Is that what
Yeah.
the tailgate market's all about?
Yeah.
Is what's important is the
Sure,
profit.
sure, like hell with that. It's all about capitalism, profit. We're here to make some money.
Okay. In that case, perhaps. But we can be on the air if I want us to, just by doing that. Now we're on the air.
We're not. We're not.
We are. Am I in your way?
No, man.
All right.
Oh, baby, baby, don't you understand? Gonna get your love again all by myself. All by myself. Don't need no love, no love all by myself. Baby, baby, don't you understand? I wanna be your loving man all by myself. All
Is that the Idiocracy movie?
No, it's called American Dreams.
The Octopus Garden. You got the Octopus Garden now, huh?
That's right.
But it
Alright.
really exemplifies what you're saying, really.
Yeah.
There was lots of people, you know. I mean, and there were a lot
Wow,
of
that
little
was
truths, and it was a
nice.
silly movie, but it was funny, and there were little
It's interesting. It doesn't mention
Well,
any
truths in there.
Octopus
embedded
Garden, which is
truths,
not
you know.
called
But it was
Octopus
hilarious,
Garden.
and you know this guy and this prostitute,
right.
who were very very average or below average. They were geniuses, because you know all the dumb people that have been having children, and that dumb children having more dumb children and bloody.
Okay, so you better stay in here if you want to fight me.
Are we back now?
We are back now.
Oh,
We
we-
have some
So this is my band
some
doesn't
Bach in the
sponsor the,
background. I believe, huh?
This my band doesn't sponsor the 420 roll.
Yes. You
Sam also
didn't see
sponsored
it come by. You want me to show it to you? Well,
All I seen was the Octopus Garden.
I know. I just showed you. I
Yeah,
just
yours
showed
is
you
in
the
the
new.
middle.
I just showed you the new.
Oh, cool.
The new advertiser. But you're on there too.
Okay, cool.
But as I was saying, when I complained to you, we had 10,030 members, and now we have 10,060 something members. I'm going. Even word of mouth should have done more than that.
When it comes up again, I'm gonna.
Kind of, maybe.
Okay, now y'all were talking about contraception and annexation and
And what was that term you used? Prenatal, nodal,
Pronatalist
pronatalist.
and antinatalist, yeah.
What in the world?
A pronatalist is somebody who is a politician
That means
who
they're
wants,
against the Zulu Natals.
who wants the government to encourage, to try to find ways to encourage, or maybe force, but first encourage people to reproduce faster, have more
Though it
babies.
would help if there was
And an
health
antinatalist
care
is someone who wants
available,
to-
wouldn't it?
Oh no,
Yeah,
that's
maybe
that's
force,
care
but
the
probably
diet.
encourage
their money.
someone to have
That's
less
the survival of the fittest.
But how are you supposed to have a baby if you don't have health care?
You got to be a healthy woman who can pop them out.
With no
Yeah,
epidural. Or
yeah.
anything
They
like
used to
that.
do it on the prairie.
Well, some of
What the hell?
Some of the modern pronatalists are offering increased health care. France and Russia have very, very low birth rates.
Every other country except for this country has health care. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's
And
just this country.
So
that does not
France and
have
Russia beefed up their health care policies. Their
Did you taste that, Randy? Was that?
Good.
especially their
Very good.
I thought you'd
prenatal
like that one. That's a
healthcare
good one.
policies, saying we need to encourage people to reproduce more, and to do that we need to offer more child care and more prenatal care, and the
And we do the opposite
industrialized
Less child care, no health care.
right the industrialized European countries that had very low birth rates became pronatalist. It's sort of a different kind of pronatalist because they're dealing with a
Which countries? You're talking
Russia,
about
France-
Eastern Europe. Okay.
France and Russia.
Please say Eastern Europe, because
France is not Eastern Europe.
France is Western Europe.
France. Oh please, they've got plenty.
They've
It's still not
plenty.
Eastern Europe.
I know it's not Eastern Europe. I come from Europe, so I know.
Most of us did at some point.
They're just
Well, I really
Maybe
do.
not this generation.
they're just over the water, and it's not that much water.
The
I think
problem
there's
is,
another one, Estonia maybe.
well, the problem is our government screws up everything. So how in the world do we expect them to run a healthcare system?
Well, that's true too. That's true too. But that's
Well,
yet
then don't
that's
expect
yet
middle
another
class people to have
subject
But see,
that
our
we have
corporate
to, have
system
to
Japan
also
address.
screws up everything,
That's
so
something-
how can they do worse?
We need to fix a lot of things.
Yeah,
A lot of
starting
things.
with the government.
And
Yeah, what do we need the government for? Because look what the government could not do
Well,
in Katrina.
Like Michael Moore said, the difference between the French government and the American government is in France, the government is afraid of the people.
right.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, I think it's time for them to get
And-
afraid of
Power to the
us.
people.
And right, exactly.
I think it's
And in
time
this
for them
country,
to get afraid of us.
the people are afraid of the
I don't know
of,
if our
of
government
the,
does
of the
everything.
Yeah,
government, but
absolutely.
in France,
I
when
think
they
it's
had
time they
when we
did.
had a revolution, we sent the
it's time.
British packing and sent them home. When the French had a
Why are you looking at
revolution,
me? It wasn't their fault. I wasn't even there.
but in France, when they had a revolution, they had heads rolling in the street, and that's what
And they replaced
that
the
makes
kings
that
with
makes
more
an
dictators,
impression.
But anyway,
Yeah,
Well, our
yeah, when
history
you got a
books
few
are
heads
so
on a
messed up,
stick-
it's hard to really tell what we've read.
It's just
For instance, the War of
Marching them down the
1912 was
road.
not the
Well,
English
you tell me-
attacking
you
us,
tell
it
me,
was us
if you could-
attacking Canada and Canada
If-
took back.
if you could put 100
all
heads
these wars are
on 100
manufactured.
sticks and
You know.
save 10,000
Keep
lives.
All of
business
them.
going,
Would you
then
do
we
it?
Keep
Well, sure.
the military industrial
Exactly.
complex going.
Exactly.
Well, that's pretty much
Very sad.
the
All
choice
you can
we've
do is
got
rise
right now.
above it.
Well, I don't know that our government's ever been afraid of the people here, even from
I
the
don't
start.
think it is either.
And
Certainly
and-
not during the labor crisis.
Yeah, and they need to understand that they do work for us, but at the same time, the people either don't have the guts or the time or neither to stand up
They
to their
don't have
rights.
the guts because they're afraid of losing
Well,
their little
when we-
American
yeah.
dream.
Yeah.
When we
part
start
of-
voting
part
for
of
the
it.
best candidate instead of the one the media tells us is going to win, or we don't, we vote for the next or the third best candidate because he is a winnable
Randini?
candidate.
Randini, I think it's going to start now. Look at the TV screen. Yeah, here it is. See, it's the same one as before.
Oh, yeah.
This is part of the 420 roll that you weren't looking at.
Okay.
And if you'll just keep watching this, now you'll see what happens. See that, and then you'll see when I called your attention to it was after this roll.
Okay.
See, and there've been changes made, and this is coming in at the end of the 420 roll after a song has been sung and some stuff like that. Then we're back to another song, okay, and
Can we get back to
then
the
and then
discussion?
after this next song, then the section you saw.
We don't really care.
Well,
We
okay,
don't
so
know.
Well,
what
he
we
does.
need, what
Well,
we need
he was
is-
late.
What we need.
He was late to
is-
tea.
You
David.
were late to tea.
You were late to
Randy.
tea.
That was pretty late. Coming after 6 is kind
Oh,
of late
awful.
to tea.
That's
Yes,
awful.
that's a
Tea's
little
at
hard.
4.
Tea is at
Well,
4.
you can
Tea's
even
at 4.
you can even drag in at 5.
Oh, yeah, but 6
coming
o'clock
in
is-
after
I
6.
mean,
After 6,
After
That's
6.
just-
Yeah.
I mean, you might as
That's
well not
just
even come,
disrespectful.
especially at 6:20.
Well, it's going to be tepid. The tea is going to be
Yeah,
tepid.
and there's
Yeah.
nothing worse than tepid tea.
Well, so
I
I'm,
don't
know.
I'm
We
hoping
don't
somebody
burn
over here will knit me a tea cozy. Maybe you'll knit me a tea
Ooh.
cozy. That
Don't
would,
lovely.
even
that
know
would be
what a
just
tea
the
cozy
that's
looks
just the
like.
last thing
How
I
many
need
hats
now
do you
is a
get a
tea
week?
cozy.
A week?
I think
it
you
ain't
should
into the
have a
week.
tea- Granny's
not
tea-
that level
tea
of
cozy.
production.
It
But
it needs to be
I'd probably
granted.
give
I think
away
so.
somewhere
We
between
need
35
jammy
and 40
dodgers.
this year,
Jammy
and I'm
Dodgers.
still going.
I'll have to find some jammy Dodgers.
You see
I
if you
will.
can find them.
I will.
Good luck on that.
I can always get my mum to send him over.
Are you drinking any of this, or are you just drinking that?
I think
So,
I got
wait.
1 or 2 left.
Back
that
to
no one got
politics.
at
Where
the
were we?
meeting.
We were talking about, he was talking about people voting for second or third tier politicians. And I say, most of the politicians that are out there
They're
are
good.
such really mediocre people in the first place. What we
Simple
need
power,
are
I
some
couldn't
real
do it.
serious, some real leaders.
Yeah, well, you need people that have actually lived a normal life.
Yeah,
like
we
most
need
of the people here.
leaders.
I mean, some
Real
some
leaders.
Of these, some of these, so-called leaders we have they ever been shopping for groceries themselves? I mean, these are so
Well,
rich.
they
These
get so
people are
much money, it
rich.
doesn't matter if they did go shopping. They could afford it. We couldn't.
Yeah,
Remember
but these
when
people
Bush-
are so filthy rich, and they come from families that have been so filthy
Dynasties.
rich. Yeah. And
Remember when Bush Senior was fascinated by the scanner, by the price scanner?
Yeah,
That was one of those.
that was a
YouTube
telling, that was
things, yeah.
kind of like a defining moment about how out of touch he was with the common
absolutely.
man.
Right.
And the Bush
And then
Junior,
so what they tried
Boy
to do with
George.
Bush Jr. was bring him like put him in a cowboy outfit
Come,
out
come,
on a
come,
ranch
come, come,
and show that he's like one of the good old boys. When really he
I'd
was
like
a
to see him with that
snot-nosed trustafarian.
You couldn't pull it off. He didn't know the price of a loaf of bread.
Oh, have you noticed the price of a loaf
Yeah,
of bread?
God.
Have you noticed the price of a
$6.
Have you noticed the price of
$6.
Have you noticed the price of a dozen eggs?
Yes. Have you noticed the price of milk?
Yes.
Milk costs more than gasoline, but it always has.
I know where a gallon of tea costs $8.
You do.
I do.
A gallon of tea.
1 gallon of tea costs $8.
Where?
And I'm sure the people that are watching me right now are laughing. My guest at home.
Were y'all drinking tea?
No. But a gallon of tea costs $8. I can't say the name of it though, because
Yeah, can we see on TV?
they may
Well,
sue me for.
A gallon of printer ink averages
I'll tell you after-
Is
$30,000.
is that in a gallon jug?
It's in a gallon jug. It's at a restaurant, a local restaurant.
Can you get it through a drive-through, or do you have to go in?
I don't think they have a drive-through. I think you have to go in. And do
Okay.
it. And
But
it's a
anyway,
sandwich shop.
it's getting increasingly hard
That
just
kinda
to make
narrows it down,
just to
doesn't
make
it?
ends
Yeah.
meet. It's
And see,
ridiculous.
and
It's on Merriman Avenue.
That's what
That's enough.
my big gripe
What's
is
the
that
address?
8 years of unrestrained republicanism is
Yes.
a conspiracy against the middle class to return us to plutocracy.
Well, I wouldn't call it republicanism because it's the Republican Partyism, which is not the same thing as true republic.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
we can split hairs, but the final thing is that the powers that be, the big
Let's
money
put
is
hairs-
behind the
cook up so much
Republicans more so than the Democrats, and that they want to return us to a plutocracy. They don't want a middle class.
Well,
They want a bunch of poor worker bees
Mm-hmm.
and a few wealthy people who can take advantage of all these poor worker bees.
Yeah.
the only problem
We're
is
going
that
back
the
to
Democrats,
Victorian Egypt.
the Democrats, on the other hand, say all the right things or think they're saying the right things, but they don't do any of it.
That's why you need to vote for John
Oh,
Edwards.
they're both. It's not.
He's
It's
the
about
same
not
as
about
everyone else.
Democratic or
No, he's a
Republican
populist.
anymore. They're
Well, except I'm gonna vote on contraception budget as a percentage. The priority, and they haven't come out with their budgets yet, so.
So in other words, the
I have to analyze
Republicans.
their budget.
So in other words, the Republicans say, "What kind of stupid bill can we create?" And then the Democrats look at them and say, "Well, let's see how we can screw it up."
Yeah.
My-
Either way, you don't have anything effective going on.
the way I put
And
it,
more and
Randy,
more,
is that
the wealthy are taking advantage of
Look,
everything.
they're both Republicans and Democrats. They're all wealthy. They all go move in the same circles, and they
the
always have.
Republicans and the
And
Democrats.
you know,
but
What were you
before this past 8 years, things were a
The
lot better than they are
Republicans come
now.
up with
Oh yeah,
decent
yeah, for
solutions
the
to wrong
normal
problem.
human being.
Yeah.
And
That's
Democrats
trying to make
come
it,
up
that's
with
working
horrible
hard.
solutions to the right
You know, you
problem.
could be working hard in a full-time job, doing
That's
everything
good.
right,
Yeah.
and still not
Struggling
be able to,
terribly,
Yeah,
struggling.
not having anything
I
left
agree
at
with
the
the
end of the
Democratic
month,
agenda,
which
just
is
not how
not
they
the
address
American
agenda.
dream, and it's not good enough. You know, for people
Yeah.
who live here.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
I know.
it isn't good enough, and I don't. You know, people should start realizing this and saying, you know what, I deserve better than this. I work hard. You know, I'm a citizen of this country, and I'm not, so I'm speaking on behalf of you guys, right? But you know, you should stand up and ask for better. You know, I think that's the difference between Europe and America. Europeans ask all the time; they demand better, and
They have zoning now.
what?
you're supposed to shake my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You are correct.
What? In what way?
That we should stand up and
Well, you
de-
should
and,
demand
and
better.
demand better.
I mean,
Listen.
demand better television, demand better services,
Demand better sheriffs
Yes.
demand everything better.
and prosecutors, et cetera, et cetera.
this
and
Demand
local-
better music,
gotta-
damn it.
Everything.
People
We got a
don't
better sheriff,
listen to
but I'm not
anything
sure how
that,
much it's
that
saying.
says anything.
you have to-
They listen to the
you have
crap
to
that
demand
gets sold
it.
to them to
You
make
know,
them stop thinking.
we could sit here all day and talk
That's the
about it,
problem.
but if you
People don't
don't,
want to think.
but if
Yeah.
you don't demand better, you're not going to get any
Yeah.
better. You're just going to get the same old junk thrown at you,
Yeah.
and people will just take it because that's all they have. That's all there is. You know what I'm saying? So people need to demand better. So it's up to there's a responsibility on every citizen to demand better. And if they don't not going to do that, then in some ways they deserve what they're getting.
Well, I have to say though,
Sit down.
I think it's irresponsible to demand better without specifying how to pay for it. Okay, if we just say more funds, or we're doing homelessness and housing, more funds for affordable housing. If you leave that, it doesn't tell you how, doesn't tell the representative how you expect them to get it. It's more funds for affordable housing by either deregulating or by raising taxes or by cutting funds somewhere else. But it has
Like
to be,
the
or
war
by
funds.
borrowing it.
wasn't that
Bob-
our
Bob-
And the
by
definition
selling
of
bonds.
affordable is rather questionable.
Yeah, is
Right,
it really?
and it has to
But
it
let's
has to
have
specify how
then
you want
let's
them to do it.
let's have real democracy and let's have referendums on these kind of things. You know,
Yeah,
should
that I
we
agree
go
with
to
all the way.
war? Let's have a referendum. Let's see what the people want. You know, isn't that supposed to be democracy?
Well, going
Direct
back to what you
democracy,
said
yeah.
though, the problem is probably 85 to 90% of Americans don't want to lead; they want to be led, and so therefore they're not going to stand up. And who knows if that's fear of? Who knows what that's a fear of? Or if
They're
it's just
afraid
laziness,
to lose what
or if
they
it's just
have.
pure laziness. You know, the average American is just lazy. Most you know, and they're lazy not from a sense of not wanting to work, but just because they're complacent. They don't want to stand up for their rights. They don't
want to
want
let someone
it's
else
someone
make their
else.
decisions
It's some.
for them.
It's exactly.
They
you
don't
know.
want to. I think what it is, it's not laziness. They're afraid of taking the risk of
It could
being,
be.
because you know, you could stand up and say, hey, you know, let's go on strike, and you suddenly find that you're the only one there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got to have solidarity in these kind of things, and without that, you know, safety in numbers.
And the other problem
my daddy
is
was a union man, and he did go on strike, and they did win their strike, sort of. They got all of their demands met, but they everyone that went on strike lost all their seniority,
yeah.
which was really bad. But as far as societally, my parents tried to be Ozzie and Harriet. Nothing is wrong in our family. Nothing will ever go outside of these walls. And it's just, as far as risk taking, that is not condoned in that sort of a family. Yeah, I guess I just was too stubborn to know what was good for me or something. But I didn't fit the mold very well.
But this is an incredible country. There's so much potential here, and it's such a beautiful, diverse country. You guys should be really, really proud of being from here, and start demanding better from your government. You know, and I call it my government too, because unfortunately, I'm not immune. But
Scotland has a child-free village now.
what's that?
I forget, it was one syllable, like near Laird or Cairn. A
Is it
child-free
child-free?
village.
Does that mean no kids can live there?
Uh,
Or is that what that
I'm not
means?
sure if they have the authority to actually ban them, but they certainly frown on them, yeah.
Child-free?
Child-free village, yeah.
Well, our
That's
government's
getting
getting.
close to being like China.
See, I knew this was going to happen too because I'm not a smoker. But when they took away cigarette smoking from the people that do smoke, when they started banning it everywhere, I thought to myself, now they're just going to keep on going until everybody that's against smoking is saying yay, yay, yay. But eventually, it's going to be somebody else's rights. Now you got California out there wanting to put a tax on sodas because they're wanting to control weight gain in California.
You see, that's ridiculous.
In San Francisco.
Because people's weight
So,
should be the responsibility of
it's-
the individual.
it's not our government's responsibility. Our
No.
government sticks their nose in things that they shouldn't be sticking.
Except that our government and our school system teaches us to not act responsibly. Specifically, not act responsibly. Let someone else be
Well,
responsible
then it's
for
up to
us.
the parents.
Yeah, that's
to start
why we are
teaching
raised.
So
children
if
and-
we're we're not going to be taught to make up our own minds and make our own decisions, then it is the government's job to be
Yes.
nanny for us.
That's exactly right, and that's what our school systems are teaching our children.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there.
Now, if
So
we want to fix
is
the
it Ron
education
Paul? Who's the
system
guy
and the
that
family
is it
culture,
Huckabee that
then
is
we can go
getting
back
all
to being real
the
human
support
beings
from the
instead of just sheep.
homeschool
Sheeple
parents?
is the term.
Huckabee
I've
is
seen.
getting
Sheeple.
support.
Sheeple.
Sheeple, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Huckabee's numbers are coming way up, but
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I think the easiest
I
way
think
to
we should
change
all
it
just rise above it.
would be to just
go
wipe
on
out the
our
whole
own
government
paths
and just start all over
of
again.
enlightenment.
I have some interest
Just
in
don't
both
throw
Paul
them.
and
I
Ron
have
Paul
no
and
idea
Tom
what anybody's
Tancredo.
saying. I'm listening to other stuff.
I have
Looks good, like
no
a-
interest in Huckabee
You
though.
look like you've got little horns.
Looks a little
I have
bullish
no
there.
interest in Tancredo.
Bull.
Well, Tancredo has a mean way of dealing with
Oh,
population, and I'll
Bull.
admit it's a very mean way of doing it, but it is at least it's doing it.
Well, I am not a one-issue voter any more than they
Yeah.
should be one-issue candidates.
Yeah, yeah, you can't
If
really.
I
there's
were
no
a
real
one-issue
third
voter, I'd be
party.
100% behind Ron Paul, because on my issue, on my main issue, healthcare and treating people like human beings, not forcing medication on people like many of us with mental illness have had happen.
Maybe
Ron
you,
Paul's the only candidate that even addresses the subject, and he does address it honorably.
It's like, you look like, oh God, did we do something
I
wrong?
recall,
Here, come here.
that during a lot of our discussion last night, that the recorder was recording.
But you're not hearing anything, or what?
What I'm trying
No,
to
no,
was that on
no,
the first disc
no,
or the
no,
second
no,
disc?
No, that political discussion we had, I shut it down because we weren't filming it. Remember? We weren't filming the political discussion. We
Okay.
didn't film the political
Well-
discussion.
Well, there was a particular discussion where do you recall Don relating the story to us of when he smoked the
That wasn't recorded.
it wasn't
No.
oh that's a shame.
Sorry.
By
Okay.
Don, is that
Camera
Don
was
Yelton?
off.
Oh,
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
did you catch Don Yelton saying something that?
But I wasn't going to use his last name.
Well, everybody knows Don.
Yeah. Well,
We had some
Then some-
drug confessions
Yeah,
last
well, he's
night.
a fellow anti-zoning guy.
yeah. Some
I
fellow
know
anti.
Don Knotts. Don Rickles.
joint, telling us about some story of smoking a joint laced with PCP and what have you. Have you heard that story before?
I think I have, yeah.
Okay.
Was it John Yelton smoked a joint laced with PCP?
Well, I
No,
wouldn't say that.
different Don.
Just
Another John joint.
a guy who is a fellow anti-zoning Don.
No, we didn't
What
get
other
it.
anti-zoning Don is there?
There's plenty of anti-zoning Dons, aren't there?
That was here last night.
Yeah. They took my class last night. Right.
Okay then.
Okay. All right.
Oh, my.
Okay. Let's
My
see
mom
here.
studied under Timothy Leary.
Oh, really?
Well, he's got a Timothy Leary connection,
Tim's a
don't
friend
you?
of mine.
Well, before he broke with the establishment, he was very conventional at first,
Uh-huh.
and really, and my mom was there when, and they did a above board government establishment sanctioned study of LSD.
All right.
And my mom was on this grad student on this committee, where they did this,
Right.
and
Where was that?
Harvard.
Where he taught at the time.
Yes.
Yep.
And did research.
Dr.
And,
Leary and Dr. Albert.
And the study, he'd probably written about this committee actually that my mom was on, but they decided that it was not medically useful and
The horses?
should be
Yeah,
outlawed.
is it community or inspiration?
No,
They
the
are-
Army decided it should be outlawed because they wanted its use as a truth
I
serum,
don't know. You know better
which it
than I
was
do.
not.
I don't,
Well,
what do
my
they
mother,
mean by
my mother's
community?
story was that they
Community,
studied
is
it and they decided
it
that A wasn't useful and B
controversial, or is
should be,
it,
should be
No,
prohibited.
it's
That's
feel
funny.
good.
That's sure
just
not what
inspiration.
Dr. Leary says.
But it's not like
It's not, and then,
spiritual at
and
all.
then Dr. Leary, yeah, that's
Inspirational
right,
might
Dr.
get played
Leary
on
disagreed with
Sunday.
it and quit Harvard.
Oh,
and-
okay.
and
Whereas
became
community-
famous and all this stuff.
Tune
But my mother was one of the people,
Tune in and
who
turn
made
out,
the
or
original
whatever
decision,
that-
yeah.
Well,
Sure, yeah.
originally
See,
Dr.
that'll help you
Leary's
know
research showed
when
that
it'll
it
get
was
played. See what I mean?
possible to make major
See, you
psychological
don't want it played
changes in a person who wants those
Right.
changes made with the use of good therapy and LSD.
Mm-hmm.
And for instance, one of the patients that they worked on in their study was a man who had been in
What's
prison
a
for
good
15
time?
years,
What's a
and
good
in
time
prison
for
he had
this child?
pretty much gotten a homosexual orientation.
Well, you're gonna get
Because
more
that's
than
what there is.
one.
And he
Right.
knew that
So,
when he got out, which was due to happen in a few years, that
Sunday
that
evening.
he would not be welcome in society
could.
at that time
It's a
with
good
that
time.
orientation.
You could get
and
Sunday evening
Dr.
maybe
Leary
if you
had
did
him,
it as inspirational.
had
But then
him
but
restructure
that's
his
taken with a live
orientation
show.
somewhat.
So it's
He
it'll
was
wind up
successful
there
in making it
and
to
there.
where he at least was comfortable fitting into
And
society.
I think
as it stood
you'd
at
be
that time.
better off
And this
with.
was in the original Harvard study.
This was in the original Harvard
Because
study.
my
With
mo-
some of these gray
I didn't
areas.
follow the details
See.
with my mom, but my mom describes it
But,
that she was in that study.
Sunday evening is
She
good,
was,
that's
she was
when,
one of the committee that
you could
decided
follow,
A, it wasn't
Casey
useful,
Waters.
and B, it was dangerous.
Well, there were some books
After taking it.
in Leary's
Hold
later
on
years, he
before.
co-authored some books with Robert Anton Wilson that expresses what actually was being done in those studies.
Like maybe Sunday at 7?
That is not widely known material.
Well, it could be that there was a study behind the
Because there's
study
going to
that
be
my
a lot
mom
of
didn't know
kids
about.
watching,
Could
other
be.
people that
But-
are involved.
but I-
you know what I mean?
I
If
know
they
that my
live in
mom
the
is
area.
honest.
Saturday's good too.
don't know
Try
that
for
she was
Saturday.
necessarily
Try for
aware
a
of
what
Saturday
background
daytime
I will
somewhere.
also point out that
Yeah.
Dr.
Choose
Leary
to set your
always
second
said
choice
throughout
as a
his life,
Saturday
do not touch street
afternoon.
acid. That was, he felt if it wasn't good quality laboratory acid, that it probably had something in it that you didn't want in your body.
All right. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Dr. Leary was always adamant about do not touch street acid.
Uh-huh. Right. And I have to agree with him entirely. And the first hit of paper acid that I ever had in my life came from a guy who I know was a fairly close friend with Tim Leary, and it was on a piece of paper, and it was a large spot about this big. You could see it on the paper, like the paper was stained, and then on top of that there was like a rubber stamp had been put on it, and it said Sacrament of the Neo-American Church stamped on it. This was back in the 60s. And that was
Neo-American.
said Sacrament of the Neo-American Church stamped right on it, and I actually got that
Well,
through.
that's one organization I do not have a ministry credential from.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
I don't think I've ever heard of the Neo
American Church.
American Church.
Have you heard of the Neo-American Church? Nobody's heard of it? Well, it said it right on that piece of paper. Anyway, I wanted to tell us a story because we're talking drug stories. I've not been listening. I've been listening to other things and talking about schedules and stuff, and I've not been paying attention to the party. But is it embarrassing you that we're talking about a bunch of drug stuff at this time?
No, I just wanted to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone before we go off the air.
You know what we need is
Because it's the last show of the season.
no. We got tomorrow.
Yeah, it is.
We got
Well, it's the last show for me.
okay. We got tomorrow. If we could come up with a bunch of Santa Claus hats, we could.
But go ahead with your story. No,
Well,
it doesn't
anyway,
embarrass
I had a friend, Paul, who the last time I saw him, he was living here in Asheville, but he was living in Winston-Salem at the time, and he was epileptic, and he had been taking medication for his epilepsy for some years, and as long as he took his medication and stuff like that, he very rarely had a seizure, and they were mild, and so he very well controlled his condition to a large degree, not entirely, but pretty well with the drugs that the doctors gave him. And one night, a group of 4 of us ate a molecule called 3,4-methylene dioxyamphetamine hydrochloride, and which is MDA. It's like MDMA, but it's one more methyl group. And that night, Paul stood up and he declared. He said, "I am cured of my epilepsy, and I will not have to take my drugs anymore." And he stopped his drugs that night. He never took another drug, to my knowledge, and he never had another seizure, to my knowledge. So not only did he proclaim it, but the rest of his life showed that as of that night, he surely did not have another. And he says,
So it wasn't just the grandiosity of the drug that made him proclaim that. He actually felt a change.
Oh, he said he said I've worked it through in my mind. He says I've worked and he says and I'm cured of epilepsy, and I won't need to take my drugs anymore. And stop taking his drugs. And never had another seizure. I mean, So
Well, they're going to ban that in a second.
Yeah, don't tell anyone.
Months.
Yeah, if it works, right?
A matter of months after that, they banned it. They made laws against it a matter of months after that.
Unbelievable.
It was legal at the time.
Yeah, they couldn't make money out of it.
Yeah. So that was that.
You don't want people cured.
Who do you think are the most powerful lobbyists in the country? The drug company, the tobacco company, the defense industry,
I think the
health,
pharmaceutical.
pharmaceutical.
Oh, that's a hard call.
Not
I
really.
think
The
drugs-
tobacco industry is losing right and left,
Just
so
look
they
at the
obviously
TV,
aren't that
though. I
powerful
mean, look
anymore.
who's...
Not in America, maybe in Japan or China or somewhere, but not in
Right.
America. The tobacco companies just, yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think drug
In
companies-
America, the
Losing it,
tobacco
sure,
company.
but it's still strong
Oh, it's
elsewhere.
very
Yeah.
strong in Japan, China.
And China, too.
Yeah,
So,
China.
so all
It's
of
like
all of the inferior things that we have are because of these lobbyists are controlling what's coming down the pipe.
Well, they know where, our government knows better about our health than we do.
Oh
So,
yeah,
you know.
I know they do,
oh,
boy.
yeah. I mean,
Sure they do.
But seriously, that's a hard question. I mean, you named off a bunch of heavy hitters. As far as yes, I believe that tobacco's losing some ground in America.
But not elsewhere. But not worldwide.
But if you look at the market that China provides for
What is it now?
tobacco,
Yeah.
it's way more than the American market. So
and
we're
they're just hitting it.
so
I mean, they're
yeah.
just
So
started hitting it in the last 10 years.
worldwide they may be